Good day everyone. Today, we will be discussing common statistical tools in testing hypotheses. Now to start with, we have to ask or identify what is the purpose of the statistical test. There are two possible answers. The first one is comparison of means, while the other one is testing relationship. Now in these two cases, when we talk about comparison of groups, it implies that we are comparing one group to another group. For example, Section A and Section B. Is the performance of Section A and Section B similar or different? That's comparison of groups. On the other hand, when we talk about testing for relationship, the focus here is to know association or relation between variables. For example, IQ and shoe size. Is shoe size related to IQ or not? Now, in that two possible answer or response relative to the purpose of your test, we have to consider also data. Now, when we talk about data, these are informations. Informations relative to the subject of the phenomena. Now, we do have 4 different classifications of data according to measurement scale. We do have nominal, ordinal, ratio, and interval. Mahalagang malaman natin kung ano ba talaga ang uri ng data na nakukolekta natin. When we talk about nominal, these are type of data wherein it focuses on the classification. Example, religious affiliation, that's the name. Walang mataas, walang mababa. Walang numerical value associated to that example. Kaya nominal ang data natin. Ordinal focuses on rank. Ibig sabihin, meron tayong position. Merong first, may second, may third. Example, educational attainment. Birth order. Yan. Ratio. When we talk about ratio, we talk about a type of numerical value which is general in its meaning. Ibig sabihin, absolute. For example, height, weight. Yan. Pag sinabi mo that learner A is 5, 6, and si learner B ay 5'4", ibig sabihin, matangkad si learner A. Kasi absolute ang height. When we talk about interval, ibig sabihin, 0 is arbitrary. There is no absolute meaning of 0. Iba-iba ang interpretasyon at meaning ng 0. Example, scores in a test. Given na nagbigay ka ng examination, 10-item test, and Luisa, ang score niya ay 0. Wala siyang tinama. Does it mean wala siyang alam? There are too many factors that we have to consider. That's why the scores obtained in a given examination is interval. Okay. Another example. Academic awards or Latin awards. For example, si Miguel ay cum laude. Si Maria ay cum laude. Ang tanong dito, magkapareho lang ba ang performance ng dalawa? That they receive Latin honors? Definitely hindi. Unang isipin natin, magkapareho ba ang kanilang program? Pangalawa, same ba ang eskwelahan nila? Pangtatlo, ang subjects ba na kinuha nila ay magkapareho? Kung magkapareho, ang tanong, magkakapare-pareho ba ang grades? At babalikan din naman natin that grades is an interval. Okay. Now, go on na tayo. Comparison of groups. Now, for comparison of groups, we are going to encounter the concept about independent samples and dependent samples. Pag sinabi nating independent samples, ang ibig sabihin, we have two or more groups. Example, yung isa gumagamit ng virtual. Yung isa naman gumagamit ng module. Yung isa naman ay gumagamit ng physical. Pag sinabi natin gumagamit, ang pinag-uusapan natin ay the mode of instruction, the delivery of instruction. Yung isa ay online, ang isa naman ay home-based, ang isa naman ay physical. Now, ang scores ay nanggaling sa magkakaiba-ibang grupo. That's why it is independent samples. Pag sinabi nating dependent samples, ang ibig sabihin niyan ay that information or the data were collected coming from the same group. Example, yung performance ng online group of learners before and after. Now, yung before, meron kang data, and then after, meron ka ring data. Ibig sabihin, you do have two sets of data. And these data are coming from the same group. Kaya siya ay dependent. Okay. Now, palalimin pa natin. When we talk about statistical tools, pumapasok din yung aspeto ng parametric. Parametric. Okay. Pag sinabi mong parametric, balikan mo yung uri ng data. Okay. Now, we do have four classifications of data according to measurement scale. Yung dalawa dito, ito ay under siya ng quali. Yung R at yung I naman ay under ng quanti. Ibig sabihin, if our statistical tools or the statistical tool that we are going to use in testing the hypothesis made use of ratio and interval data, then parametric yung statistical tool na ginagamit natin. Otherwise, siya ay non-parametric test. Okay. Now, under the parametric, meron tayong tatlo na common na ginagamit. Common statistical tools in testing hypothesis. We do have Ttest for two sample means, Ttest for independent means, then analysis of variance. Okay. O tinatawag nating Ftest. Isa-isahin natin. Ano ba ang halimbawa ng Ttest? At kailan ginagamit ang Ttest? Pag sinabi nating Ttest, or we are using Ttest for two sample means, ang ginagamit natin na research design ay descriptive research design. Descriptive research design. Or the number or the sample size is 30 or more. Okay. Now, ano ba ang halimbawa ng Ttest for two sample means? Okay. Ito yung hypothesis, or this is a specific question leading to our hypothesis. Do elementary teachers and high school teachers significantly differ in their professional engagement? Now, in this case, we will be using Ttest for two sample means. We are going to compare if there is significant difference relative to the professional engagement of elementary teachers and high school teachers. Now, this is a descriptive type of research, and the respondents is large enough to give feedback on differences relative to the professional engagement of teachers, whether it's elementary teachers or high school teachers. Okay. Next, the Ttest for independent means. Now, this type of statistical tool is being used for experimental research. Okay, experimental research design made use of less than 30 participants. Pero sometimes, gumagamit din tayo ng Ttest for independent means kahit na greater than 30 as long as that is experimental research design. Okay. Now, an example of a specific question relative to Ttest for two sample means is, do experimental group and control group significantly differ before remediation class in Science 4? Do experimental group and control group significantly differ before remediation class in Science 4? Bago pa magkaroon ng exposure ang experimental tsaka control group, we want to test if there is comparison or there is similarity on the entry behavior of the learners. Kasi it is important that you really have to test if the groupings is similar. Kasi it's useless to proceed into an investigation if in the very beginning ay merong pagkakaiba ng performance. Okay. Now, this is a Ttest for two samples. Okay. Now, after Ttest, now we proceed on the third statistical tool, and that is analysis of variance or Ttest. Now, kailan ba ginagamit ang analysis of variance or Ttest? Ttest is being used if we want to compare at least 3 groups. Therefore, analysis of variance is a continuation of Ttest for independent means. Now, let's go with the example. Do the 3 groups of learners exposed on the new normal mode of instruction significantly differ before and after learning statistics and probability? Now, this is a problem which Ttest or analysis of variance will be used. Now, 3 groups of learners. Maybe the 3 groups of learners are being grouped into the new normal mode of instruction. It can either be home-based learning, it can be physical learning, and then it can be virtual learning. Now, this is an example of Ttest or analysis of variance research question. Then, after parametric, if in case that our type of data or the data that we are going to use is an ordinal data, meaning it focuses on ranks. Okay. Now we have to use the non-parametric test. Under the non-parametric test, we do have 2: the Mann-Whitney U test and the Kruskal Wallis. Now, the Mann-Whitney U test and the Kruskal Wallis both use ordinal data, meaning to say the collected data is being ranked from 1 to a certain definite number of order, or vice versa. Now, the Mann-Whitney U test made use of 2 groups, while the Kruskal Wallis, we have at least 3 groups. Okay. Example of Mann-Whitney U test. Consider a phase 2 clinical trial designated to investigate the effectiveness of the new drug compared to placebo to reduce symptoms of asthma in children. Now, in this case, the research question is there a difference in the number of episodes of shortness of breath over a week? on the randomly selected participants receiving the new drug as compared to those receiving the placebo. Now, the two groups, the first one is exposed a new drug, and the second one is receiving placebo. Now, the number or the frequency of shortness of breath within a week is being ranked. And then the obtained rank is now being used in computing for the computed value using the Mann-Whitney U test. Okay. Now we do have two sets of group under the new drug, and the second one under or receiving the placebo. Okay. Next, for the Kruskal Wallis, at least 3 groups. Okay. Example, is there a significant difference in the level of instructional delivery mode preference among 4 groups of participants in and learning offered by public schools for school year 2020 to 2021? Now, in this case, we are looking on the level of instructional delivery preference among 4 groups of participants. Now, the 4 groups of participants is being taken into consideration if we will be using Kruskal Wallis or now take note, this is an example of a Kruskal Wallis, not Ttest, for the reason that the level of instructional delivery mode signifies that we are dealing with an ordinal data. And we are now going to rank their preferences, and then from the given rank of preferences among the 4 groups of participants, then we are going to calculate the value using the Kruskal Wallis formula. Okay, now we are through with the parametric under independent and the non-parametric under independent samples. Now we proceed on the dependent samples. Now same thing, the dependent samples can have the parametric statistical tool and the non-parametric statistical tool. An example of parametric is the Ttest for dependent means. Okay. Now, sabi nga earlier, the Ttest for dependent means the data are coming from the same group. We only have one group. An example of that is there significant difference between the mean performance of experimental group before and after remediation class? Now, this is Ttest for dependent means. We only have one group, and that is experimental group, and we consider the data before and the data after. That's why this is Ttest for dependent means. Okay. And last one, we do have the Wilcoxon Signed Rank Test. Same thing. We only have one group, and then we consider the before and after. Okay. Is there a significant difference in the level of instructional mode delivery among 4 groups of participants? And after the parametric, now we proceed on the non-parametric. Now, for the non-parametric, we do have the Wilcoxon Signed Rank Test. Now, same with the Ttest for dependent means, the Wilcoxon Signed Rank Test is a non-parametric made use of one group, and then we look into comparison before and after, but this time we are using ordinal data. An example of Wilcoxon Signed Rank Test problem is that a study assessed the effectiveness of a new drug designed to reduce repetitive behaviors in children affected with autism before and after 1 week of treatment. Now, this is a Wilcoxon Signed Rank Test for the reason that we only have one set of group, and that is group of learners with autism. And then we look into consideration the behavior before, and then the behavior after 1 week of treatment using the new drug. And if you want to know the effectiveness of that new drug, then we will be using the Wilcoxon Signed Rank Test by looking into ranks of the behavior or repeated behavior illustrated by this set of participants. Okay. Now, we are through with comparison or comparing groups. Now, we proceed on testing for relationship. Okay. Now, for testing relationship, same thing. We do have the parametric and we do have the non-parametric. Okay. Now, first, we go with parametric. Under the parametric, we do have the person-product-moment correlation. Now, person-product-moment correlation is a test for relationship. Okay. Using ratio or interval data. Okay. Now, an example of a problem that person-product-moment correlation is to be applied is, does IQ level significantly related to academic performance? Now, IQ level is a ratio and academic performance is an interval. Now, although IQ level is a ratio, we can dichotomize the data into a dichotomized interval data. Okay? Next, for the non-parametric, we do have the chi-square and we do have the Spearman Rho or the Spearman rank order correlation. Okay. Now, for Spearman Rho, we are using ordinal data. For chi-square, we are using nominal data. Okay. Now, for chi-square example, is there significant relationship between gender? Gender is nominal. And then academic performance. Now remember, academic performance, although it's an interval data, we can dichotomize it into a nominal. Remember, academic performance in the report card of the learners do have corresponding description and numerical rating. Thus, we can correlate, we can test the relationship using the chi-square of association. But remember, chi-square of association as a statistical tool will not give us the degree of relationship. Thus, we have to use Cramer's V in determining the degree of relationship. Because the degree of relationship as presented in the context of correlational analysis ranges from -1 to +1. Now, for chi-square of association, there is a possibility that the value obtained is greater than 1. That's why it is being recommended that Cramer's V must be applied after the chi-square of association to determine the degree of relationship, and we can interpret it if there is a high correlation, moderate correlation, low correlation, or absolutely no correlation at all. Okay. Now, for the Spearman Rho we are using ordinal data. Now, we can have teaching appraisal related to professional competency. Now, teaching appraisal and professional competency. Now, you are going to have numerical values, but these numerical values can be translate into ordinal data. Okay, now, in this case, teaching appraisal, because teaching appraisal deals with proficiency. An example of this is the IPCRF, which is ordinal in nature. Professional competency, it also talks about level of competency, and that is an ordinal data. Thus, in this case, although we do have numerical value ranges from 1 to 5, still we have to translate it into an ordinal. And then from ordinal data, then we can now compute the Spearman Rho or the Spearman rank order correlation. Okay, now that's it. We are through with the common statistical tools that can be used in testing hypothesis. Now remember, lagi niyong tatandaan, there are two things before you start identifying what formula are you going to use. Are you comparing groups or are you testing relationship? You always have to go back with your statement of the problem and the data that you are going to collect. Okay, for comparison of groups, then we do have 2 or more groups, or we only have one group. For 2 or more groups, then we do have Ttest, Ttest, and analysis of variance for parametric. And Mann-Whitney U test and Kruskal Wallis for the non-parametric. The Mann-Whitney and the Kruskal Wallis is for ordinal data, while the Z, the T, and the analysis of variance is for ratio or interval data. Analysis for 3 or more groups. Kruskal Wallis, 3 or more groups. And for one group, for parametric, we do have Ttest for dependent means. And for the non-parametric, we do have Wilcoxon Signed Rank Test. On the other hand, for testing relationship, we do have Pearson R for parametric and chi-square and Spearman Rho for the non-parametric. I hope that you able to get some information or you learn something from my discussion. Thank you for listening and watching the presentation. Follow and subscribe me at my YouTube account, Bahagharing Lexie. And for more content about research, mathematics, the use of Excel, I will be posting it in my next episode. For your comments, paki-take down notes na lamang and I will be able to